Hi, I'm Tim Carter, AskTheBuilder.com. I want to show you a pretty interesting construction site here on my own street in central New Hampshire. We're going to talk a little bit about footings. This video took place over 2 days. One day I wanted to show you the forms before they poured any concrete, and they finished pouring the concrete about 8 hours ago. If you like what you see, make sure you subscribe to the video. And at the end of the video, I've got a special offer for you. If you need help with footings, I'm happy to call you on the phone. Not a problem. Behind me, they're getting ready to build a new home right here on my own street. And today, let's talk about footings and footers. What you're looking at are the wooden forms for a footing or a footer. And just trust me, I know they look a little sloppy. They are not yet finished. They've just kind of roughed them in. They're not yet level. And they've got the steel in, but they're not finished. In other words, they're going to be coming back tomorrow, and they're going to be working on these. And I just wanted to explain a few things of what's going on. So the form boards are 2x10s. So the footing is going to be about 10 inches thick, which is a really good thickness for a footing. You can see these 1/2-inch steel bars, and they're sitting up on chairs right here. So there's some little steel triangles that hold them up so they're not touching the ground. That's really important. And they're held up about 3 inches because you want that steel in the bottom third of the footing, because the bottom of the footing is in tension if the ground were to settle. But in this situation, you've got nothing to worry about. This house is not going anywhere because everything you see here is solid bedrock. This is not soil. So this house is not going anywhere. But you can see here, I don't know that I would have done the steel this way. Typically, we would bend the steel at a 90-degree angle, and so the pieces of steel that are coming this direction would have bent at a 90 and kind of come this way. I'm not real happy with the way they've done that, but it's not too critical on this particular job because, once again, they're on solid bedrock. I don't have a copy of the plans. I cannot tell you what's going on, but here is a footing that's running perpendicular to the long footing walls. So you can see this is a big rectangle shape. My understanding, this area is going to be the garage, and this is no doubt some type of bearing wall that is going to be carried up through the house. We'll understand that a little bit better when we get to see more of the house being built. But this footing here, it's very shallow for New Hampshire standards. Typically our frost level here is 4.5 feet. And this footing is not going to be 4.5 feet below the grade. But they don't have to worry much about that because, once again, this footing is going to be on solid, literally on solid bedrock. And the frost is not going to bother it at all, because you have to worry about frost when you are putting footings on top of soil, because the soil can expand and you can have ice lenses inside the soil. But you'll notice there are steps in the footing. In other words, the footing down here that we're walking towards is going to be higher than this lower footing. So there's going to be a short wall on top of this footing here, probably only 2 feet high. And this one, well, it's going to have a much taller wall on it, that's for sure. When you put the forms in, you don't have to be perfect. It's not finished carpentry. So you can see these two long boards here, these 2x10s. You know, they didn't join them together. They just have a board here that's lapped on top of them. That's perfectly fine. All that's important is that you want to make sure that you get the top surface of these flush. Because ideally, you want the top of the footing to be level as can be, and of course you want it square. So you want to make sure this thing is square as can be. If you have the footing level, it's going to make it much easier to put the foundation panels on it and to make those line up. So simple as that. It's been 2 days, and I wanted to show you what happened. They poured the concrete today. There's some really interesting things that you need to see. Let me show you. You can see the concrete in the forms, but here's something that's kind of interesting. See all this water here? And it's all the way down the trench there, filled with water. And it's been sitting here since, this morning. It's been sitting here about 8 hours. And this water is from the concrete trucks where they washed out the chute. You know, they like to clean the trucks up, you know, before they take off to the plant. But this water has not soaked into this soil here, you know, to move down the hill. So that's really important. In other words, this water's not going anywhere. So what does that mean? Is that they have to put in some incredibly good drain tile. So I think we're going to see that happen in the next day or so. This is a really telltale sign that this particular house needs an excellent foundation drain tile system. Let's go look at some other things. Groove is called a keyway. It's a good idea. And right where I'm standing, the soil line right here is only about 30 inches higher than the footing right here. And they stopped the keyway right here because from this point out, there's probably going to be just a little bit of foundation wall, and there'll be hardly any earth pushing against the foundation wall. And that is what the keyway is for. In other words, the keyway, what it does is when the foundation wall is poured, the concrete from the foundation wall goes down into the keyway. And so when the soil pressure pushes sideways against the foundation, it makes it so that the bottom of the foundation will not kick inwards. In other words, it's got to shear off that part of the concrete wall that's sticking down, you know, into this keyway. Here's some other things that they did to help it as well. Because this wall here, I talked to the gentleman this morning, it's going to be a 9-foot 2-inch high wall here. So that's a pretty tall wall. They, in addition to the keyway, they put in these bent pieces of 1/2-inch steel. So these are locked into the, you know, they're locked into the concrete, and you can't pull them out now. And those will do a tremendous job in addition to the keyway that goes all the way down this leg of the footing. The footing is a little sloppy. It's not perfectly level. I checked it with my level, and it just makes it harder to put the forms in. You know, they can shim the forms and whatever, but your job, if you're going to do a DIY job of putting a footing in, trust me, it really, really pays to take your time to get the actual concrete as level as possible. Not only left and right, you know, not only going long ways, but across the form too. You want to make sure that it's level. It just takes a little bit more time. Usually it just takes an extra man or two, or a woman, on the job so that you don't get stretched too thin. What I find kind of interesting is they did not pour any interior pads here. There are no footing pads inside this whole area. That tells me that the floor joist, you know, above, way up here, when they build this house, that they're either going to be floor trusses or they're going to be truss joists that can span that entire distance. So that means that there's going to be no bearing walls potentially down in the basement. Typically they would have poured a footer. That's why this footing is here. So here's an interior footing that I showed you the other day, and there's going to be a bearing wall on top of this. What it's for, if it's the back of the wall to support a concrete floor inside this garage, we don't know yet. It's a little too early. We're going to know a lot more in the next coming few weeks, I can tell you that. That's pretty much it for footings or footers. Depends on where you live, what they're called. If you have questions about footings, if you want to know some really good installation tips, if you're going to do it yourself, I offer phone coaching. You can get me on the phone. I've got a link to that in the description of the video. So make sure that you, instead of taking a chance, instead of, you know, making a mistake that could cost you a huge amount of time and money, why not just invest a little bit of money and let's talk on the phone. Here's the cool part. If you do the call and you're not satisfied with the information I give you, guess what? The call's free. Can't beat it. You got nothing to lose and everything to gain. Once again, I'm Tim Carter. This is AskTheBuilder.com.
If you want to discover more home improvement tips, go to AskTheBuilder.com.